Today, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing what it means if you have Saturn in Aquarius in your birth chart. So first of all, I want to start by introducing myself. I'm Everett Curdy, and welcome to my channel, where I do videos on astrology and spirituality. And every week I do a general astrology video, which could be a planet in a sign and what that means. I'm doing a video on the houses in astrology right now. That'll be out on December 5th if you're watching this at the time of publishing this video, which is December 3rd of 2023. You can tune in for that video on the astrological houses to come up very soon into the ethers of YouTube. So, other types of videos that I would do include, maybe the elements in astrology or the branches in astrology, or what certain aspects mean in your natal chart, all this kind of things like that. So, subscribe to my channel and hit the little bell so that you don't miss my latest uploads. So, delving into Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn rules Aquarius, and Saturn is a taskmaster planet that demands that you put forth the work and the effort to achieve what you need to achieve to live out your purpose. Because Saturn wants to remind you of what your purpose is in this life. And Saturn demands determination, that you stick to what you said that you were going to do, and that you are doing that with quality, excellence. So Saturn is a teacher that wants to teach you about the hard lessons in life, including that we only have so much time to do what we want to do and live the life that we want to live. So let's make it meaningful and let's make it full of purpose. So Saturn in any sign represents an area where we need to put the hard work in to achieve the qualities of that sign. And Saturn is also the blocks and the fears and the insecurities that we have towards achieving whatever we desire as a soul. But it demands that we face those challenges and we rise above those obstacles to then create something that is worthwhile, that stands for the long term, because whatever we're creating, we need to make it sustainable for the long term. We need to make it sustainable for the long haul. And so the long-term results is what Saturn is about. So I have a whole nother video where I discuss the meaning of Saturn more in depth. I'll link that video in the description for you to watch, where I talk at around 57 minutes of content about the meaning of Saturn. And I think it's really important to understand the meaning of the actual planet that you're looking at, because its energies are going to combine in a certain way with whatever sign that planet is in. And so it's important to have a good background understanding of that planet's qualities and see how that can be expressed in whatever sign that that planet is in. So now we're going to delve into Saturn and Aquarius. So the whole mission for, if you have some, if you're someone with Saturn and Aquarius, is to liberate yourself. That's going to be the key thing, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, the planet of freedom and liberation and cutting yourself off from the herd mentality, really removing yourself from the way that things have always been done, and the way that we just go along with everybody and do those kind of things that are socially acceptable, or we're doing the things, we're following the rules of society, where the arrow is going in a straight direction, and we're not the yellow arrow that just chooses another path. But the whole thing about Aquarius is that they can't follow, they cannot go along with what everyone else is doing. And it is imperative for the Aquarius person to be just sort of the black sheep, to be the one who is apart from everybody else, and to forge their own path, go on their own path, and live the life that they want to live, that may be different than a lot of the lives that we live. And so Aquarius is about us being our individual selves apart from everybody else, and the unique sovereign beings that we can be. That's the key thing with Aquarius energy, is really marching to the beat of our own drum and not needing the external validation to give us the approval that we're moving on our own path, but us being, one in humanity, and we are open to everybody else who goes on their own path, and we go on our own path. So Aquarius is also a fixed sign. So this sign also deals with our opinions and our beliefs being set in stone and being so fixed that we can't change them, that we're not willing to change them, that we know what we know, we have our beliefs, we have our opinions and our principles, and we don't really want to change all those things. We feel very strongly and very passionately about those things, and we're going to cling to those principles. And so that's the shadow side of Aquarius. So we'll get there a little bit later. But so the key thing with Saturn and Aquarius is to liberate yourself from the status quo, from society, and from the expectations of society. So, someone who has, Saturn and Aquarius is, even though Saturn rules Aquarius, it's really a dichotomy, because Saturn is about grounded and practical results in the material world. It's about the 3D. It's very realistic. It likes things to stay the same. It likes structure. It doesn't want things to go too far off into the land of unconventionality. It basically wants to keep things as they are because this is the way that things have always been done, and it works, and so why break something if it works? Why change something if it already works? Why reinvent this if this structure is super powerful and super set in stone? So the thing with Saturn and Aquarius is Aquarius wants to break the mold, break free, change the structures of society, because it's all about the future and not staying the same, but what are we going to do to influence, impact, and change and better the future? That's one of the big questions that Aquarians and Aquarius suns, and if you have a lot of planets in Aquarius, that's something that you'll spend your whole life trying to find solutions to that, of innovating humanity as a whole, or large groups of people, and reinventing the status quo for something better and much more advanced, and something that we as humanity are destined for and need to come to terms with and experience. So, we can create freedom with order, with structure, with rules and regulations, with laws, with these commandments of what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable to do. So freedom within limitations is really the high road of Saturn and Aquarius. That everyone is free to do and say whatever they want to, but there are these rules in place. There are these structures in place that have these kind of limitations and these rules that need to be followed. Or, I mean, this can show up in a lot of different ways, and that's just one way. And I'm sure that there's a whole slew of other ways. So the next thing is that someone with Saturn and Aquarius craves personal freedom. Freedom to be themselves, freedom to move on their own path, freedom to express themselves, regardless of what anybody else thinks of that person or that soul who has Saturn and Aquarius. So they need their freedom to be themselves and to do what they want to do, to experiment, to expand their horizons, to explore, to experience life on their own terms and on their own accord, regardless of the wants and needs and expectations of others. It really is about the people with this placement liberating themselves and having the freedom in their own lives. So Saturn representing challenges. This could be problems with the father figure, problems with limiting parental or societal structures of them limiting their their ability to do whatever they want to do. And so when you throw in a father figure or someone who loves them, that can be problematic, because then the person with Saturn and Aquarius is going to want to rebel and do their own thing and not follow and forge their own path in life and maybe become very destructive and show rebellion in a more shadow side and negative way. And so there can be some problems with the rules and the expectations of society that this is these are the rules, and Saturn and Aquarius wants to break free of those rules, rebel, create their own rules, live a life by their own beliefs and commandments and ideals apart from everyone else. So, so problems with rules and regulations comes to be a huge theme here. And so freeing themselves, if you have Saturn in Aquarius and there's this limiting structure or limiting set of rules, then it's going to be imperative for you to free yourself from that, to find the courage and the willingness and the bravery and have the nerve to do that, to break free, to really say, no, I'm not following that, and to not really care, not get so caught up in what other people are going to think of you, and that, they may not be in support of some of your decisions, but it really can't come at the cost of your personal freedom. And so, the other thing that's coming to mind here is the fact that, we only live one life and we need to make the most of it. And so people with displacement can be free thinkers. Yet they're also very practical, very pragmatic thinkers, very serious thinkers when it comes to structures that are going to benefit humanity as a whole. So they're progressive and they are, like-minded thinkers. They're very idealistic. Yet, let's make this practical. Let's put a structure to it. Let's think of how that reflects how things have always been, because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is how things have always been. And so we're taking, what's always been, and we're reinventing it into something brand new, into something radically different, into something modern, and into something the world has never seen before. So, people with displacement can also tap into an energy of being a genius, um, where you're very smart, you're very intelligent, and you know a lot of things, and you have a lot of ideas, and you have a lot of plans and goals for what you want to, achieve in the world when it comes to bettering and advancing humanity. Because Aquarius is about us being one humanity, us being just each and every one of us contributing to society, and everything being equal and just and peaceful, sort of, because what Aquarius wants is a utopia. That's what it's after. So they're very bright individuals, and they're also very hardworking and very determined for the goals that they have to achieve, because Saturn rules Aquarius, and therefore it's at home in this sign. So their work ethic and discipline and stamina and persistence is super duper strong. So they can also be experts at intellectual topics, especially science and philosophy and all these kind of things like that. They can be very knowledgeable about these things. Because Aquarius rules over the higher mind. It rules over the part of us that is ingenious, the part of us that just knows things with just the spur of a moment. We know things, and we're very information savvy, because Aquarius wants to nurture and care for others and speak to others and live life through the mind and in an intellectual sense. People with displacement can also be visionaries. They have these visions for humanity and for their life. Maybe they think about, how are my actions going to contribute to the whole or the masses? How is what I am doing going to affect humanity? And what are going to be the consequences of that? Are they going to be positive rewards, or are they going to be, hurting others in life? So, Aquarius is very concerned with, the actions that you take and how it affects humanity as a whole. And that seems broad, but that can be your community, that can be, your immediate family, whatever it may be. Aquarius is about the all and the others, because it falls, Aquarius falls from signs Libra through Pisces, which rules our relationships to others, and our how what is what I'm doing going to impact others. It deals with our connections with other people, versus The first 6 signs are mainly about the self, and so Virgo sort of cusps that and moves into, service to others, in a humble and, loving, caring way. So, the people with this placement can be mavericks. They can be someone who wants to be, who want to be out of the box. And so mavericks forge their own path. They go their own way, and they're not bound to society's expectations. They're not bound to the way that things have always been done, to all of those standards and all of those traditions, that they can be like-minded free thinkers, and they want absolute independence and freedom. And so mavericks can start revolutions and can sort of spread revelations for humanity. And Saturn and Aquarius can also very strongly set up and organize revolutions, because Saturn wants to be in charge, it wants to be in control, and it can be a sort of, a boss energy. And so in Aquarius, it deals with, humanity revolts, and it could also be charities, but especially revolutions. They could definitely organize humanitarian affairs in that type of way. So it's going to be really important for you to not get so caught on your high horse and on your pedestal about your knowledge, what you know, and your beliefs and your opinions and your ideals, where you lose touch with connecting with humanity, connecting with others, because it's Aquarius that not only represents the individual, but also, humanity, all of us, that we are all one, and everyone deserves to have a seat at the table. Everybody is entitled to their own opinions, their own beliefs, and all of that, period. And so when these people can be open to others' ideas and inputs, then they can truly go far. Because Aquarius wants to accept everyone as they are, regardless of their, beliefs, their opinions, even if they disagree, regardless of their social status or knowledge base. Everyone is equal, and everyone deserves the same treatment. That is an Aquarius belief, that they will say, secunge. It'll be put in my own sort of language. This is, really key, because there's Aquarius that wants, freedom and independence, but it's also about, not only the individual, but about the collective, and working together, collaborating to achieve a common goal, to come together, to forge bonds and connection with others. And that involves knowing how to share, knowing how to listen and respond, knowing how to work together with others. That's key. So it's going to be huge for you to keep your ego in check, because it can be arrogance. That can be the downside of this placement, where you may think that you have all the information, you know what you know, and you know more than everybody else because you're far more advanced than everyone else. You're far more intelligent, and it can be a negative quality for Aquarian energy to put others down, for not being as smart and intelligent and wise as you are. So it's important to, be open to learning and receiving from others. That's going to be key. And that's part of the balancing act of Aquarius. Part of it being about the self, but then the other part about being the collective. And so you may have wildly progressive ideas, and you may be ahead of your time when it comes to a lot of things. And so Saturn in Aquarius also represents blocks and challenges in, with the nervous system. So it's going to be really imperative for you to keep your nervous system healthy. So people with this are humanitarians. They genuinely care about what is for the highest good of all. So volunteering can also be a wonderful activity that you can engage in, helping out other people, and contributing your part to a noble cause. So fighting for a cause, fighting for something that you personally are passionate about and you want to see to the betterment and to the advantage of humanity. And so, volunteering where you can put your time and energy in to help others is going to be something that you can really use to get far in life by. So the other question is, does your work fulfill you on a soul level? Is what you're doing it just for getting paid or just for having enough money to support yourself? But is it actually fulfilling and rewarding work that is meaningful for you, worthwhile for you, and definitely enjoyable? Is your work something that you enjoy and get pleasure and satisfaction from, or not? So that's something that you can ask yourself. So technology is also something that comes to be super huge with this placement, where you can reinvent new technologies, or you can be very good with technology, very connected to technology. Maybe you are very tech savvy. And so authenticity is the name of the game. So being your authentic self is basically your calling in life if you have Saturn in Aquarius. So being truly who you are and embracing your authentic self. And so you're also very innovative. You could work as an innovator. So you're very innovative when it comes to getting things done. People with displacement are also highly analytical. They can also be very objective because the hybrid of Aquarius is, I am not making a decision and living my life based off of getting caught in my emotions, but because I am observing my feelings from a higher perspective. I am taking a step back and I'm turning on my observer. I'm getting on the observation deck and I make decisions from this place of clarity and this place of wisdom, and from this place of being rational about your decisions and just not getting so caught up in your emotions, but just observing them and then making a decision according to that. You can also be very idealistic. If you have Saturn in Aquarius, you could excel in science. And so it's about, another key piece here is to take credit for your actions and your ideas. If you put in all the hard work for something, and if you were the one that did that, don't just look to what everybody else did. Look to yourself and how you contributed and what you did to better this situation or, whatever. So giving yourself the round of applause, giving yourself the acknowledgement and the recognition that you deserve for the things that you did, if you did them, and the ideas that you have. Because you also matter. It's not just what is orbiting around you. It is, you are the star of your life. You're the sun of your universe. So taking credit and not being afraid to shine your light onto others is something that's coming through here really strongly. Another wonderful thing about Saturn and Aquarius is that they can really stick up for the underdog super strongly, for the one who is a victim, or the one who is getting picked on or getting played at, or whatever it may be. So genuinely caring about the well-being of others, about the person who is down in the dumps, who is really getting the brunt of whatever somebody else wants to project onto them, or however someone else wants to hurt that other person. The Saturn and Aquarius person can step in with a fair sense of justice and say, no, that's not okay, and do what they can do to help that person. So there's this intellectual, idealistic compassion that comes with Aquarius, that genuinely cares about everything and everyone, while not getting too attached to anything and anyone, because Aquarius is the energy of non-attachment. I'm helping you, but let's just be friends, and I'm stepping back and I'm living my own life, but I'm connected, but I'm independent. So you can feel the push-pull of the Aquarian energy, where Aquarius is like, they either think God or they think that they're God, because God is a spirit that is non-attached to matter, to whatever it is, whereas Leo is about your personal life and is about, it's a very attached sign. It wants, Leo really wants to control its environment. Aquarius observes the environment more so. And so it's going to be key also for you to know that you don't have to include everyone and everything all the time. So, getting rid of the people who are not going to serve the plan or serve the operation or do what they need to do. And so, you genuinely believe, if you have Saturn in Aquarius, that everyone is equal and everyone should have an equal say and be treated equally. So that is key as well. So you can be philanthropists at heart, or people that, genuinely care about the welfare of humanity. And so someone with Saturn in Aquarius is not going to be the average Aquarius, whereas, Aquarius will make friends with anyone, whereas Saturn is about, restrictions and those kind of things. So, people with Saturn in Aquarius can be very discerning when it comes to their friends, and if their friends are right for them, and if their friendships will last for the long term. Now, the downside of Saturn in Aquarius is they can be loners, or they can alienate themselves from the group because they believe that they're smarter, more intelligent, more bright, and better than other people. And they can really put others down, as I said before. And so that's going to be something to keep in mind, that you're not alienating yourself or alienating others. even though you may feel alienated or feel separate or different than other people. It's important to get, to connect with others, as well as going on your own path in life. And so that is sort of the balance of the sign of Aquarius. And that's sort of the prayer for Aquarius is, yes, can they be their independent, authentic selves, but also connect and serve humanity as well. So that is all that really wants to come through for this video on Saturn and Aquarius. I really hope that you enjoyed it and found value from it. And if you did, be sure to like this video so that more people can have a chance to watch this and find value from it as well. So, bye for now.